Introduction. For most of human history, neurodivergent people had no name, no diagnosis, no framework, no quiet reassurance that the way their mind worked had a place in the world. A child who found eye contact overwhelming might simply have been described as distant. A child who returned again and again to the same beloved interest might have been called stubborn. Someone who found deep comfort in patterns, numbers, or systems might have been gently labelled eccentric. And yet those minds have always been here. Autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette syndrome. These are not modern inventions. They are different ways the human brain can develop, ways that have likely existed for as long as humanity itself. What has changed, slowly and imperfectly, is how the world has learned to understand them. In this video, we will take a gentle journey through that history, from ancient societies, through the first scientific descriptions of autism, to the modern neurodiversity movement that is reshaping how we see the human mind. This is not just a story about diagnosis. It is a story about understanding. And in many ways, it is still being written. Part 1. Before psychology existed. For thousands of years, there was no science of psychology. There was no framework for understanding why some minds experienced the world so differently from others. Behavior was interpreted through culture, religion, and social expectations. A child who withdrew from social interaction might be described as shy or peculiar. Someone who spent long, absorbed hours studying patterns, mapping the stars, or building systems of knowledge might be seen as gifted, eccentric, or quietly mysterious. In some ancient societies, these differences were not always viewed negatively. People who thought differently were sometimes scholars, mystics, or observers of the natural world. Their unusual focus or solitary nature could even be respected. But there was also a darker reality. Without any understanding of neurological development, many people whose minds worked differently were simply misunderstood. As psychiatry began to develop in the 18th and 19th centuries, those who did not fit social expectations were often separated from their communities and placed into institutions. These places were not built for understanding. They were built for containment. The focus was not on the inner experience of the person. It was on managing difference rather than making space for it. The idea that some brains simply process the world differently had not yet entered human thinking. Part 2. A much older possibility. But there is another question that researchers have begun asking in recent years. What if neurodivergent traits did not just exist throughout history? What if they helped shape human evolution itself? Early human communities were small, and survival depended on a wide range of cognitive strengths. Some individuals needed to be highly social and cooperative. Others may have excelled in different ways. Deep focus, pattern recognition, attention to small environmental details. These traits could have been incredibly valuable. Someone who noticed subtle patterns in animal tracks might have helped guide hunting groups. Someone who observed the sky and remembered seasonal patterns could help communities anticipate weather changes. Someone deeply absorbed in tool-making might spend hours refining a single object until it worked perfectly. Traits that today we might associate with autism or ADHD may once have played an important role in human survival. Different minds may have contributed different strengths. In that sense, neurodivergence may not simply be a modern concept. It may be part of the deep story of how human intelligence evolved. Part 3. The first scientific descriptions. The modern scientific understanding of autism began in the 1940s. In 1943, an American child psychiatrist named Leo Kanner published a paper describing a group of children who shared a particular pattern of experience. These children found social interaction difficult. They preferred routines. They developed deep focus on specific interests. Some repeated movements or phrases in ways that felt meaningful to them. Kanner named this pattern early infantile autism. Around the same time in Austria, another doctor named Hans Asperger was observing children who were socially different from their peers, but intellectually capable. Many spoke fluently and developed extraordinary knowledge about the subjects that fascinated them. Asperger described them as little professors. For the first time in recorded history, a pattern of experience that had likely existed for centuries was being recognized as a neurological difference, rather than simply personality or upbringing. It was an important moment, but understanding was still incomplete. Part 4. The Era of Misunderstanding. Even after those early discoveries, the science of autism remained limited. Some of the theories that emerged were not just incorrect, they were deeply harmful. One particularly damaging idea became known as the refrigerator mother theory. It suggested that autism was caused by emotionally distant mothers, that a child's neurology somehow resulted from a lack of parental warmth. This theory was completely wrong. Today we know clearly that autism has strong genetic and neurological foundations. It is not caused by parenting. But during that period, many families carried a heavy and undeserved guilt. Children were sometimes separated from their parents and placed in institutional environments where understanding was rare. It took decades for research to move beyond these misconceptions. And for many families who lived through that era, the emotional impact never fully disappeared. Understanding grew slowly, but it did grow. Part 5. The discovery of the spectrum. By the late 20th century, researchers began recognizing something important. Autism was not a single, uniform condition. It existed across a spectrum. Some individuals needed significant support with communication and daily living. Others had strong language abilities, but experienced challenges with sensory processing, social communication, or navigating environments not designed for their minds. As the idea of the autism spectrum developed, something else began to happen. More people began receiving diagnoses. Not because autism suddenly appeared in society, but because professionals were learning how to recognize it more accurately. Education systems slowly began to change. Special education programs expanded, speech and language therapy developed, and researchers began listening more carefully to autistic individuals themselves. A deeper understanding was emerging. Part 6. The Neurodiversity movement. In the 1990s, a new idea began reshaping the conversation. Neurodiversity. The concept was simple but profound. Human brains do not all develop in the same way. Just as biodiversity strengthens ecosystems, neurological diversity is a natural part of human populations. Autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other neurological differences began to be understood not only as challenges, but also as variations in how the brain processes the world. Autistic adults and advocates began sharing their own perspectives. They explained what sensory overload feels like from the inside. They described communication differences not as absence, but as difference. Gradually, the conversation began to change, from fixing to understanding, from managing difference to supporting the whole person. Part 7. Where we are today. Today, our understanding of neurodivergence continues to evolve. Neuroscience research increasingly shows that neurodivergent brains often process information differently, rather than incorrectly. Many individuals demonstrate remarkable pattern recognition, creativity, or depth of focus. At the same time, the challenges remain real. Sensory overload, executive functioning difficulties, and navigating environments not designed for different minds can be exhausting. Support matters. Understanding matters. Accommodation matters. The goal is not to erase neurodivergence. It is to create environments where different minds can thrive. Closing reflection. The history of neurodivergence is a story of human understanding gradually catching up with human reality. For centuries, these minds existed without explanation. Then science began to notice patterns. Society slowly began to learn, and gradually, the world began making more room. Neurodivergent minds have always been part of the human story. They have helped shape it, challenge it, and move it forward. The more we understand that, the more compassionate and inclusive that story becomes. Because progress has never come from making everyone think the same way. Progress comes from learning to value the ways we think differently. Different wiring, different strengths. Please like and subscribe for more informed research on neurodivergence.